I've written articles about psychology online for many years now. I've never had any real prominence to the degree you did, but it's very strange if people write me emails from the internet about and connecting with an iteration of myself that I was maybe 3 years ago. It's super strange for me to because I have like nothing in common with the person who wrote that. How do you deal with the fact that people have this projection of this idea of like you're that guy and not really wanting to get to know who you are right now, but more like the idea that they have and the illusion that they have in the mind of who you're supposed to be.
Yeah. Um, well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing is it's something that I didn't really come to until, again in my 20s and stuff. And I think it was really when I stepped back from acting and it was very much more the fact of like making that statement that I was just, myself. I didn't have to be that person for everyone around me. But yeah, I don't know. It's a tough question because I feel like I'm still doing that. I feel like that's the thing is like one of my, it becomes a lifelong task at the end of the day is dealing with, the life that I've lived. It never really goes away, like even in my relationship that I just got out of, one of the main issues in it is my past. And it's not my past as far as what I did personally. It's just the fact that anytime someone around me, like even my brother was messaging the other day that people that he knows from his childhood ask more about me than they do him when he runs into them, like that kind of thing, right? Where like it's put trauma and basically hate or jealousy in within my family. And that's not even something that I do. It's literally something that other people do. But when they talk to him, they want to hear about me. They don't even care about him, right? So, and it's like, that's not my fault. It's not like, sorry, I was in movies, like, fuck. But, so it'll never turn off. I'll always be dealing with, that side of my life and dealing with people asking questions about it and everything. So I think it's constantly I don't want to say a battle or anything, but it's constantly I would say almost a struggle as far as like an identity struggle. And I think that's why at least now through what I've done after the fact, especially crypto, where it's like I can kind of with crypto it was nice because I could use my past life to create a new life, more or less, where everything else, it's the exact opposite. It's like I will, no matter how hard I try to just do my own thing, I will still always be just that actor kid. I think those are probably struggles that a lot of people have, as far as especially these days, I would say, as far as identity and who they really are and what they really want to be. Um, I mean, obviously, with all the, stuff going on in youth and everything these days with transitioning and so on and so forth, to each their own, anyone can do what they want with their bodies. But again, there are these stories of, children literally making these very serious life decisions as far as what they want to do with their body or do their body, and then they're 25 and they're like, why the hell did anyone tell me that I should have done this? Because now there's no going back. And I was 12 and I had no clue who I was. So I guess I'm just fortunate that for me, it wasn't a life altering decision. It was more just something that, again, I hope I can learn from and grow and use in the next, phase of my life. Right. It's always interesting. But yeah.
What do you think is a nexus event of your life where a la Spider-Man, where losing his uncle and
Yeah.
or like developing some form of superpowers or super weaknesses? What's the moment where you feel that it hit
Yeah.
you
Well, I think, I
harder
mean,
and it altered the personality of yours?
yeah, I mean, I think the main event that really happened in my life, and it would definitely be from a trauma side of it, was when I found out that I worked on the butterfly effect when I was 7. I know I've mentioned this to you before, but for anyone listening, when I was 7, I was in a movie called Butterfly Effect, which strangely enough starts off basically based about well, not basically, it's based about pedophile or pedophilia. Um, well, of course, when you're a child on set, you have tutors on set. We ended up befriending the tutor, like my mom and I. And I spent like 7 years. I would go over to his house. I was at his house for Christmas one time, that kind of stuff. He was, at the time, I didn't have a father in my life, or a father figure in my life, I should say. Um, and so he was that kind of father figure to me at the time. And then fast forward to when I was 14, I was filming elsewhere in Canada here, and we got a call from the RCMP, which is our like federal police force kind of thing. Um, Basically, wherever anywhere doesn't have their own police, there's the RCMP, so they're everywhere, all over Canada. So I got a phone call from a Vancouver RCMP detachment, and it was about the guy in question, the tutor, and he had 18 cases of child molestation against him. And there was things that had happened that instantly that was the flood of like, oh God, those things that I was kind of like, is this right? Were proven to not be right. Fortunately, in that situation, I wasn't abused physically all that much. There were other kids involved with him that were definitely more abused than I was, I would say. But for me, it was the mental side. It was the fact of the betrayal, and then furthermore, it was the why me, Was it just because I was that actor or whatever, or was he trying to groom me? Was that a thing, And that's when really like everything changed. That's when the fame became more of a burden. That's when my life became more of a burden, because obviously I was dealing with so much behind the scenes, but then I still had to put on that smiling face and be that person for everyone in front of me. That really like my struggle started, I would say. And then that's when the self-reflection, it was a few years I was, got into alcohol and drugs and everything around the age of like 14. Like grade 8 for us is when I got into all that stuff. And it advanced to harder stuff, and that's when there was a point where the partying, luckily in my point, it didn't ever turn into a bad thing, but for me the partying, it became less of a party, and instead whenever I was high on whatever substance, I would just talk about life and talk to people and talk about things. And that's where my crazy, you know, inebriated drug mind would go, was into the like self-reflection. I would sit in the corner at a party and be high as hell, just being like, what am I doing with my life? Um, and then even furthermore, like that is something that I deal with. I wish I could say that I didn't think about that guy in question at least once a month. I would think, I hope, even now to this day, my mom absolutely hates herself for that. She believes she gave her child to the devil, basically. She was the one that said, sure, go over to this guy's house. I trust him, and so on, right? And so it didn't just affect me and my life, it affected her life. It still does to this day. Um, and obviously, it affected a lot more people's lives that were involved with him. But again, I'm just glad that I came out and I'm here and I'm able to have these conversations with, people like yourself, because just as easily not be here. I could just as easily be dead. I could just as easily be, God knows where, broken, on the streets or whatnot, right? So, yeah, I think if anything, that is the one moment that I'm able to look back on and look at how it has affected my life over the years, and really hopefully I've learned the most from that, and really about more about myself and again, how to love myself and not look for that. Sadly enough, maybe if I wasn't looking for a father figure at that time, then I wouldn't have had that. But did I need a father figure at that point? Who knows? Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, that's the one. I mean, I'm sure there's others if I thought about it, but like I said, the one moment that has had the most impact on my life, whether it's good or bad or both or everything in between, that's the moment for sure.